Welcome to episode 11 of the XrmToolCast. Today, Jonas and I talk to Scott Durow, 5-time MVP and creator of the Ribbon Workbench and Sparkle Xrm Framework. We discuss the birth and eventual death of the Ribbon Workbench, how an issue at Microsoft caused Scott to receive over 200 support requests, and how smart buttons can make your ribbons easier even if you've never heard of them, like I hadn't. Scott also defines his open source ethos and why the Ribbon Workbench is not open source. And finally, we finish up talking about the Sparkle Xrm Framework, and Scott announces that he is rewriting of a portion of it in TypeScript, which makes me excited since I'm a huge TypeScript fan. So, let's get started. Welcome to episode 11 of the XrmToolCast with your hosts, me, Daryl Labar, and Jonas. I wished his parents named him Pow Rap. So, welcome.
Hi there, Daryl.
That was a really funny Twitter feed I saw you post there, Jonas, where was it a son you were thinking about having named POW and then last name Rap? Is that how that was going to work for Power Rap?
Power Rap. I'll be Mr. Power Rap on Twitter for maybe a week, but then I'll shift back, I guess.
Okay. All right. Cool. I see.
So I want to go introduce, our guest today. We had our first episode, we had one superstar, Tengiz Tuzard, of course. Second episode, we had Super God or something, Matt Barber. And I think we're back to at least the superstar level now again with Scott Durow.
Wow.
Welcome.
That's quite the intro. I thought you were going to go one up. I mean, you said you started with superstar, then you went to God level, and then actually you can't go higher. We're just going to go a bit lower than that.
So now you know exactly where you rank with us. You are not godlike, but you are at least superstar.
Now you don't pass, Mr. Barber.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. That's it. So it's the XrmToolCast. We're going to talk about tools. And you have probably the best known tool outside of the Xrm toolbox. And now that it's in the Xrm toolbox, it's like you get the best of both worlds. But the Ribbon Workbench has been around since 2012. Is that about the time it came out?
Yeah, I think actually it was 2011 when it first came out. Because I was working on the early betas of CRM 2011. And it was like, it doesn't have a ribbon editor in it, and it was all this Ribbon XML. So I think that's when I first started it. I can't really remember when I released it publicly, but it was definitely a need which I filled right back then on the beta.
Now, if I remember, there was another tool at the time that did something very similar. Because I remember there was one that would work in some work in the others, and you've maintained your tool, and it's done very well. And I don't remember what happened to the other one. I think when Codeplex died, it died. I think is the answer what happened to that one. But so you started creating. You saw this need individually, and you saw it for your own project, and so you created it for yourself. When did you decide that, hey, I want to share this with the community?
It was probably late 2011, I think. It was one of those things that I saw just so many people making typos. I mean, myself included in the XML, and it became a necessary tool really, because the amount of time people were wasting, projects were just becoming behind schedule. Because once you get an XML error, you start to fiddle around, and days become weeks and months, and so you get lost in it. So
I think that sums up the ribbon diff XML in a total. Projects get delayed because of that XML.
Yeah, exactly. So it was one of those things I just had to do, to put it out there so other people could benefit.
Yeah. But to start with, it was not part of Xrm Toolbox. I guess it's still also, as Daryl mentioned, it could be used standalone. What's the how do you use it in that scenario?
What, standalone rather than the XRM Toolbox?
Yeah.
Well, you install it as a solution. I mean, that's how it was originally designed. Was designed to run inside the actual, the runtime of Dynamics CRM as it was then. And the thing, the advantage about that is that once you've installed it once, everyone who's customizing CRM can use it. But there's different ways that people like to connect to it. So I created a Toolbox plugin so that if people are using that as their choice of connection, then they can equally use it there.
Yeah. Okay, I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard some people say that, yeah, when you run Ribbon Workbench from Xrm Toolbox, it still installs a solution or something. Is that true, or how do you work with that? You know, there's rumors about your tool. That's some sort of level of achievement.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'd love. I mean, have you heard any other rumors that you need to share with me?
Yeah, the author, the creator, is a really weird guy.
Yeah. I know. This kind of stuff is amazing. I like to hear these.
There's a Reddit channel you probably need to follow.
Yeah, I'll be researching that later on. But no, it doesn't install a solution. And actually, that is one of those myths or misunderstandings about the Ribbon Workbench solution, is that you have to have it in production. I mean, I do strongly discourage anybody to install the Ribbon Workbench solution into a production environment, because you really shouldn't be editing the ribbon directly in production. So, the runtime is purely the Dynamics runtime. So there is actually no runtime other than the Dynamics, unless you want to use, there is something called the Smart Buttons solution. And the differential is that the Smart Buttons is effectively a runtime to allow you to do certain things that you can't do in the native runtime of the ribbon. So if you want to run a workflow, or if you want to run a piece of JavaScript, run a report, etc., from a ribbon button, you're going to need some kind of bootstrap code to enable you to do that. And that's where the Smart Buttons solution comes in. So as soon as you install the Smart Button solution, the Ribbon Workbench detects that, and then it will show those buttons inside the Ribbon Workbench. And it was actually one of those things I wanted to enable other people to extend and create their own extensions for the Ribbon Workbench, but it never really took off. I don't know really why. Maybe it's because I just didn't tell many people about it.
So you wanted to create the Ribbon Workbench development framework for anyone to use? Yeah,
more that if people wanted to have a pattern in their environment, so say they had a lot of people creating buttons for a particular, doing a particular function, or an ISV, say that wanted to have some of their functionality exposed to multiple entities, custom entities perhaps, then there's like a manifest XML that you can create, and the Ribbon Workbench will pick that manifest XML up and say, okay, well, here's a smart button, and this is the definition. It has these properties, and it can be positioned in this part of the ribbon, either the grid or the home page or a form, and it will just show it as in the actual toolbox.
Right.
And then you can drag it on. So actually, I've used that myself in things like there was the network view, the network visualization widget that I created. And you can add that to custom entities. And actually, if you install that, you can see that if you have the Ribbon Workbench, it will show up as on the toolbox in the Ribbon Workbench, and you can just drag that onto custom entities. But like I said, I probably didn't tell anyone about it. So,
I've been using it for 6 years. This is the first time I've heard of these smart buttons. So have I been missing out? I mean, I've had my own JavaScript that I call all the time. And here's my problem. Whenever I have to do anything with the ribbon and I have to estimate it, I've got two options. Either everything goes perfectly and I'm done in 30 minutes, or I get some weird error and it takes 4 to 6 hours. I don't know if that's just me, but every single time I have to deal with the ribbon, that I get half the time, hey, works flawlessly, no issues. Other half the time, I've got some upgraded button that's sitting out there that's preventing me from editing things, or I even had one where it was I tried to rename it and it was like a name that was somehow already taken or something really weird, and the platform wasn't actually updating it, and it was horrible. So is it just me, Scott, or do you have problems with the ribbon stuff too? I'm trying to feel better about myself here, or maybe worse, depends on your answer.
I'm trying to avoid getting into the whole kind of managed vs unmanaged layering kind of discussions.
I'm just talking about dev. I'm talking about dev, just the dev environment. So we don't have any questions whether it's managed. It's the dev environment. It's got to be unmanaged. Okay, so just that environment. Can you give me any? Daryl, you're not doing it right, or Daryl, you're just stuff happens. What's your feeling on that?
Well, normally if you're just simply adding a button, there really shouldn't be any issues. But there are certainly reasons why things don't show up, or why you can't change something and you think you can change it. And it really all comes down to the layering, because the Ribbon XML is actually probably, I think it's the only piece of user interface real estate that is fully layered, in terms that you can actually have this sort of the ability to change things, customize things at each level. I mean, you do get that to a certain degree with obviously entities and forms, but the Ribbon XML is actually considerably more complex in terms of the way it's layered up.
Yeah, the ribbon's like a merge, not a last in win sort of approach to the UI, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so you're always going to have the challenges where that comes into play, but also sometimes when you do publish it, because of the caching mechanism, there is sometimes a problem where the cache doesn't necessarily get cleared on all the different nodes, and so you sometimes don't immediately see the actual updates you've provided because of that merge and the caches. So it's actually very, very complicated piece of code, and So you're
saying I need to be more patient.
I hear of lots of problems. Yeah, I hear a lot of these challenges, but I mean fundamentally, it's if you're doing it right, it's probably down to a cache issue. There is reasons why it's not showing. The most common reason why something doesn't show is that somebody doesn't actually assign a command to a button or forget to. So you create like a button on the form, and then you don't assign it a command to run it, and that doesn't actually render. And even though the Ribbon Workbench does try and give you a lot of tips on what's missing in the solution messages area, most people ignore that. So
regarding problems people get, I was going to ask you, I mean, you obviously get a few questions and issues with when things doesn't work the Daryl way. I was going to ask you also if you get a lot of contributions, but then I realized it's not open sourced. Why is that?
No, that's right. It isn't open sourced.
No, you better start charging for it then.
Yeah, I think I might have missed the boat on that one.
Yeah.
Well, you do advertise on it, so maybe I guess you're helping yourself out that way. Yeah.
Or maybe that's just it's not for the ads and the money. It's just for us to have something to look at during all the waits.
Yeah, I kind of show things exactly that people might be interested in whilst they're waiting for things to customize, because things take an awfully long time. And in fact, if you do want to show something in the Ribbon Workbench, then just let me know, because I can put it in there. It's like there's a news feed. So if you want me to advertise your XrmToolCast, then just let me know.
Do we need to subsidize that, or is that just friends?
No. I don't charge for that. So yeah, just let me know. And then if anyone has got anything that wants me to show as well, do let me know. But that it's not open source. I was going to release it open source, but I think the challenge is that it's so complicated, and it's not one of those things that there's sort of like features that we can add to over time. Where we can just sort of do incremental improvements. It is very complex in the way in which it's built, because it's come from a long history. From obviously Silverlight was the first version, and when I first built it was using the MVVM pattern, so using Silverlight to separate out the UI XAML part from the way in which the view model and the model worked. And so when I converted it over to HTML, a lot of the code actually just simply moved with it. So I just needed to change the UI rendering. So consequently, the actual architecture of it is pretty intense. And so I really didn't feel as though it was going to be something that people would probably be able to get involved with easily. And I think that's one of the key things about open source, is that the barriers to getting involved should be quite low.
Yeah, absolutely true. So the short answer is it's too complex for the common people. Only Scott can do this.
Yeah.
For the common people, yeah.
Scott didn't do a very good job engineering it, so it's really too complicated for anyone else to join. So that's
yeah.
I'm writing that down in the notes.
Messy code.
Yeah,
I think it's probably just messy code. He doesn't want to show it.
To be honest, I just didn't want it to appear in a Raise the Bar episode. So.
Hey, I've asked for things that were not related to the Xrm Toolbox or anything else. I haven't gotten a single plugin suggestion. I just got a Jonas' stuff. He wants me to review everything he's got. So
clever.
You need to start charging him, I guess.
Free code review services.
Yes, I call it peer review.
Yes.
That was what it was designed to be. But I got kind of disappointed after my video on how do you replace your door lock on a rendezvous, got 10 times the number of views than anything else, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll find something else that's more beneficial to the community besides me spending a couple hours going through and doing something. So, but I do have another one that works. We'll wait.
The thing is that with the YouTube audience that we've actually got is actually quite small compared to other things in the world. Pretty much every other thing in the world.
Yeah, every other thing.
Yeah, I'm on the subset of a subset. It's on developers, subset of developers to CRM developers, subset to and at least with your channel, Scott, you've got a lot of you got the whole citizen developers at least that are at least interested in see what's going on, and some other business people as well that aren't necessarily even on the creation of it. They just need to know what their colleagues are doing or what they can do, sort of stuff. So you at least have a little bit larger market to reach out and tap into, I think. So.
Yeah. But to continue from that, I mean, do you have any idea how many users are using Ribbon Workbench every day?
Well, yeah, I've got some basic stats on it. And
you're collecting stats within the tool?
Well, I get a kind of when you download the news feed, you get anonymous hits. So I haven't added anything sophisticated like you've got in your tools, the whole app insights and things like that. But I get again the kind of basic HTTP hits. And so it's sometimes an eye-watering large number of people. The other thing is that, of course, from a user base, it's now split across the Xrm Toolbox and the solutions. So it's interesting to see the sort of the shift in time. When I first put it over into the Xrm Toolbox, it was quite a marked shift. There was a lot of people that obviously were really waiting for it to come out of the Xrm Toolbox, and I think it's sort of like a 50% shift away from using the solutions.
Yeah.
Personally,
I would never use the solution. I mean, Xrm Toolbox is always there, and usually it's open. And if I don't have to contaminate my environment with yet another solution, then I'm happy.
Yeah,
but you're diverting. I want a number. Because I have one for you.
You told me I didn't have to prepare, right? So
yeah.
I haven't got any statistics.
But ballpark.
Yeah, I really haven't looked for a very long time. I can provide you with that offline, and then you can put it in the notes. So.
Yeah, and I can tell you, if you just go to xrmtoolbox.com/report, you can see all the plugin starts of all the tools, and you are averaging about 600 a day.
Right. Okay, so that's through the Xrm Toolbox, yeah.
Yeah, through Xrm Toolbox. So I'm guessing you have twice that at least. Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's quite impressive, I have to say.
Well, I suppose it's one of those things that's just become part of what we do, and myself included. I mean, the thing about certainly the Ribbon Workbench and obviously a lot of the other tools in the Xrm Toolbox, it just becomes that you become so dependent on them, and you just it's just part of what you do on a day-to-day basis. So it's interesting because that there aren't that many other kind of environments that have that much dependency on non-vendor produced tool sets,
And I think when we had a chat with Matt Barber on the XrmToolCast, I don't know how strongly he confirmed it, but he at least hinted that the Ribbon Workbench is definitely a reason there hasn't been released any tooling from Microsoft side on this, because everyone's using it works, and so that lowers the priority for Microsoft to do something about it.
Yeah, I've been told by the team as well that they didn't really necessarily want to invest in that area because, like you say, it's kind of currently covered, and I think, to be honest, if that's the reason why they can spend resources on other areas, then I'm quite happy.
Absolutely. I mean, you have contributed to some of the awesome new features by having them not have to work with the ribbon stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's quite a nice way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I think as far as the progression, I suspect that we will see a replacement for the Ribbon Workbench over time. But I don't think it's going to be a replacement as in a like for like. So I don't think that we're going to see like, well, okay, this is now the tool you can use to edit Ribbon XML. What's more likely to happen is that Ribbon XML goes away altogether, especially the way that we're moving with the model-driven apps being merged with Canvas apps. So it's becoming a much more expression-based environment for building apps.
Yeah.
I would expect that we would get to a point where we've got commanding, where we can use the same sort of expressions as we can in Canvas apps today, and use the likes of connectors and the kind of the level of interoperability with model-driven apps, using that same sort of notion of as we've got the moment when you can embed Canvas apps inside model-driven apps. I think that's the tip of the iceberg. So yeah, I expect there will be something to replace it, but it won't be like for like.
Yeah, so you see a day when the Ribbon XML will no longer be what we use to actually configure buttons and things of that nature in the UI. There's going to be a new methodology, probably something based on the component framework that's going through and using that instead of what we're doing now with the Ribbon then.
Yeah, certainly that seems to be the logical progression. We want to get away from the need to write any JavaScript or any parts of the system that are complex. I think I think to me that's the logical final step of merging model-driven apps with Canvas apps. Is we get to the point where actually we've got a very, very feature-rich environment for building apps, but we don't need to actually write code JavaScript to do that.
So you're anticipating that there would be zero need to write any JavaScript at some point in the semi-near future, or are you still thinking that there's going to be a point where we're still going to be needing to do something JavaScript related?
Well, I think the answer there lies in all the effort that's going into the control frameworks, or the component frameworks. Confusingly, I never really know what to call it. PCF. I mean, the C seems to be component and control, but I'm going to call it the component framework because that's the official term. But we all know it's actually the control framework. But yeah, so I think that's. The answer lies to your question lies in that, is that actually that's about writing TypeScript, JavaScript, and allows you to do very complex things that you just simply can't do through that expression-based interface. So, but the key is that they play by the same rules as everything else. So rather than at the moment where we've got a point where you can use all of the configuration, the functional aspects of the app building framework, but as soon as you want to do anything else, you're kind of on your own. You're into the realms of writing everything from the ground up. Whereas what PCF aims to do is to create an environment where you can create very rich custom user interface components. But you have that support, you have that framework, you have all of the plumbing handled for you, all the stuff that actually you don't want to have to keep on writing over and over again. So yeah, absolutely, I see the point where we can write very sophisticated apps without writing a single piece of JavaScript until we need to extend the user interface. But we extend it in a way where she just simply pops into the apps in the same way as anything else does in the that are produced by first-party apps from Microsoft.
Yeah, I'm under the impression also that the whole ribbon thing, which was I guess inherited or borrowed or hijacked from SharePoint, and it's actually far more complex than what's really necessary for the features that are available to us in the Dynamics platform. Do you agree on that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The actual Ribbon XML did come from the Office SharePoint Ribbon. Yeah. And I mean, even when it was implemented in 2011, there was actually, the code was lifted from SharePoint, and it had support for obviously all of the things that are completely redundant now.
Yeah, we had groups and those things that are just not visible from 2013 on.
Yeah, scaling, the ability to actually change the width of the screen. Right. It would show large icons, small icons. It would start to group them up differently. There was things like color pickers, inline edit boxes, and actually those were all available in 2011 because it was using the Office XML rendering, but it wasn't actually technically supported. So there was this strange situation where people were doing things in the Ribbon in 2011 that really the Dynamics team weren't ever going to support. So that was another part of the Ribbon Workbench. A lot of the requests I used to get is like, oh, can you enable a color picker control? Because, you can do it. And well, the answer was, well, no, because actually it's not supported to run inside Dynamics.
Yeah, I think I used like the command value ID, and then all of a sudden after some update, it was just not passed to the JavaScript function anymore because, well, it was not supported or they didn't intend us to use it. So they just removed it in an update. And then of course, later it came back. But it was quite clear that it was not their framework to work with. They borrowed it from somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. And it served us pretty well. I mean, it has been, it's been pretty awesome to be able to do the kind of stuff we have been able to do.
Yeah. And it made you a superstar.
Yeah.
He was already a superstar.
Yeah,
Come on now. Come on.
Of course. You had it.
Near godlike. Near godlike. So is there any plans for any improvements or any features that you, time permitting, you'd like to add? Or is it just it does everything it needs to do and people should be happy?
Well, it sounds like I need to let people know more about the smart button stuff.
I guess so. Yeah.
Because it was a considerable amount of work to do. I mean, I know people do use it because I do see a lot of people asking questions about it and downloading the solution.
Is this where you're saying, and you have metrics from all environments where this button is used as well?
No, I don't. I don't have any.
You will scare people off.
Yeah, I don't have any metrics from using the solution, but I have metrics obviously from people downloading it.
Yeah.
Because it sits in. That's actually open source because that sits in GitHub. So, So, but as far as other features, I do have quite a long list of enhancements that I would like to make, and a lot of them actually being suggested by the community in the user voice site. And so, I do sort of occasionally add little bits in the top requested features, but also I'm, just keeping updating it for every release, making sure that it all works and testing it against. So I test it against majority of the new releases to check that there's no changes to the Ribbon XML, check that majority of things are still supported, still working.
That has to take a lot of time.
Yeah, I guess you're probably the same deal with your tools, right? It's in the Xrm Toolbox. It's kind of one of those things. It's actually quite good though, because it's not necessarily I don't feel it as it's a chore, because it's something that we want to do anyway. Every time you get a new release, and you go on and check it out, it's all working, simply so that I can make sure that I can support my clients.
Yeah, and you know how to do automated testing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the changes, the only way the actual tool interacts with CRM itself is through importing and exporting solutions, correct? So as long as that part doesn't change, you don't have to worry about maintaining differences between different server environments, correct? Or am I completely off my knocker?
Well, yeah. No, fundamentally, that's what it does. It imports and exports solutions. But of course, we all know that the solution, import and export changes quite a lot. And there was a problem recently whereby there was a change made to the actual rendering of the ribbon based on the XML, and so some things that we, something that
was a fun email chain. I remember that one.
Yeah, exactly. I had something like 200 support tickets in a one weekend. So it was pretty hectic. But I mean, of course, I blamed myself initially. I was like, oh, what the hell have I done? I mean, I think that's the common thing about pro devs. I always say, pro devs immediately blame themselves, where citizen developers blame the pro devs.
I recognize that scenario though, when something changes in a platform and your tool behaves differently, or the results of your tool. So how did this end? Did you fix a workaround, change it, or was it actually a bug in the platform, so Microsoft released a fix?
Yeah, it was Microsoft released a fix very, very quickly, and the team are putting out updates so quickly these days. Gone are the days where you have to wait sort of months for a fix to go in. It's a matter of hours sometimes. And I think that's largely down to the maturity of their DevOps process. Yeah. But there have been times where there's been a bug that's appeared in the platform, and I have been able to work around it in the Ribbon Workbench. So there are a few things when you actually do your customizations of the Ribbon Workbench and you drag and drop things on and you put in command properties, there's actually an awful lot of stuff that it does behind the scenes in checking for duplicates and checking that you don't overlap for things, and then making changes, subtle changes. And so I can actually release updates very, very quickly because it's all part of an automated release cycle. So I can merge something into my release branch, and that will just simply kick off the DevOps process, and it'll upload it to NuGet, upload it to the website for download, etc.
So we talked about the Ribbon Toolbench or Workbench as much as I think we can possibly talk about for our session here. So let's go on to some of your other tools, and the one that comes to mind for me is the Sparkle framework. Now, originally when I heard about this, I thought it was designed for being able to write C# that then generates JavaScript. I thought that was maybe the first iteration, or maybe I'm completely wrong with it. And now I understand it does that, and then it also does a lot of work with actually pushing changes to the server from your dev machine as well. Am I off my rocker, or is it completely, is it that plus more?
Well, you may be off your rocker, but you are actually correct on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So Sparkle Xrm is a kind of a brand, if you like, of all of the tools that I use, and primarily I write them for my own projects, so my own teams. And it's whereby I see a gap, I see something that can be made more efficient. And I'm strongly a believer in actually open sourcing things like that, because they are very much about everyone trying to be able to get more efficient, optimize in terms of the development process. And so it certainly started off with just being about the JavaScript customizations for creating HTML JavaScript customizations, because I saw a lot of people doing the same thing over and over again, but like through every single different way you can possibly imagine, different frameworks, different plugins, different mechanisms. So it was about driving best practices and design patterns that I'd found worked. And but then, of course, as we got a lot more mature in the development world within the dynamic space, DevOps became quite a significant part of that. So it just has a natural, moving towards that, being able to automate the DevOps process. So there are tools in the Sparkle Xrm suite, if you like, that allows you to automate extracting of your solutions and publishing plugins from your Visual Studio environment or your VS Code environment. And certainly I'm moving much more towards TypeScript, because as you say, Daryl, I firstly started with using something called Script which was pretty awesome back then. It was like an alternative to CoffeeScript, and enables you to sort of use a very, very similar environment to when you write plugins. But these days, obviously, TypeScript is very much the de facto, and so I'm exclusively using TypeScript these days, but I'm still using components of Sparkle Xrm that I don't want to have to rewrite, because they do what they do, but just obviously wrapping them up in type definitions, etc. But I have got branches where I am completely rewriting the whole thing in TypeScript, so you will be seeing that being released in the fairly near future.
Mm-hmm. Cool. But you're quite heavy. I can hear this. I have never used Sparkle. I have looked at it briefly, and you're heavy dev in this. Is there a future for this TypeScript and everything? I mean, it was related to what we were just talking about, the future of the Power Platform. Will we actually do any client-side scripting or programming at all?
Well, that's what we could do an entire episode on that, right?
Okay, you got 30 seconds.
I mean, absolutely. We all talk. There's so much hype about low code, no code, and citizen developers and all this sort of stuff. But I think what's clear is that we're moving to a much more mature space, whereby we've got a lot more clarity in roles and responsibilities, and people that have got the a kind of a platform to use make them much more productive, so that you don't necessarily need to rely on people that have no knowledge of your domain space. So if I'm working in accounting, for example, previously you'd have to go and employ some software developers to come in and solve your problem using software. And I think that's where the software development space used to get a lot of bad press, well, probably still does. I actually collect war stories of software projects and how badly they can go wrong, and usually it's down to communication and that kind of divide between the people who have the problem and the people who are actually trying to solve the problem. And so what we're starting to see is a much more clearer divide in terms of what pro devs are doing, what people who are writing JavaScript code or C# code are creating something that's much more reusable, so that then the people that are actually solving the problems have got a platform, a much more sophisticated platform, or very specific components that they can include to solve their problem. Yeah. And I think this actually makes us, as in the software development community in the whole, an awfully lot more productive and efficient in the way we actually solve solutions.
Yeah. So basically, to relate to my old thinking, instead of writing plugins as a pro dev, we create custom workflow activities so they can be consumed by the customizers or the BAs whenever necessary.
Yes, I think that's a good analogy from where we've come from. But I think that, again, with custom workflows being consumed by workflows inside CRM, Dynamics 365, there was an awful lot of pitfalls. And so the platform really didn't do you any favors. It would make it very easy for you to shoot yourself in the foot. Whereas I think what we're starting to see now is a platform that really elevates you beyond a lot of the things that you used to have to worry about. And I think that should be the goal of all software. I think it should be able to raise that level of abstraction so that we don't have to worry about concurrency and
hashtag raise the bar.
Yeah, yes. Hashtag raise the bar.
Yeah. So the other side of the Sparkle, I mean, that's the ALM story where you define your plugin steps and what web resources and everything that should be in the solution. I hope I'm not mistaken here. And that's related to what's happening for Microsoft now in the ALM area. Do you see you will still use this, or have Microsoft shown any interest in Sparkle to sort of replicate that, or where do you think they're going with this?
I think only time will tell as to where they actually go, but they're certainly heading towards the direction of certainly Sparkle and Whale's tools that run inside Azure DevOps. I think that the solution to the problem has got many different guises, but the problems are recognized, I think, by everybody, and so it's down to us to communicate those efficiently to Microsoft so that they can then move forwards with them. For me, one of the challenges around ALM and DevOps is that Dynamics is a very different, and certainly CDS and solutions is a very different beast to any other type of software development environment, in the sense that the metadata driven and the solution packages are just so different to code. So if there was one thing I think that Microsoft could solve, which would really elevate us further forwards, is being able to treat solutions much more like code. So at the moment, if you unpack your solutions, you just get, every single time you unpack it, you get sort of like a different set of XML, different GUIDs, etc. So it's something that we refer to in quotes noisy diffs, because ultimately, if you're going to source code your code and actually have pull requests and things like that, you want to see the differences. You don't want to see noise. You don't want stuff that means that you can't see the differences. You want to say, well, if there's a difference there, it's something that I have changed, not just the platform changing it.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest area for improvement, because then really you've got a choice. You can either use open source tools or the tools supplied by Microsoft, but until that's solved, then really it's going to make it very difficult to whoever tries to produce those tools.
Yeah, but I think we have been clear enough towards Microsoft with the importance of that fix, and I know they're working on it, and let's just hope it's fixed really soon, so we don't have to worry about the noise.
Yeah, let's hope. Yeah.
So there's one other thing that you have created that I saw a couple of years ago, and I was hardly could believe what I saw. And I've been wanting to play with it, but never had time or effort, and then I forgot about it. Then was it network visualization view or something, where the sort of the nodes of a neural network were bouncing back and forth, and they were representing contacts and accounts and opportunities and everything. Whatever happened to that? Is it still out there? And yeah,
it's still
are
out
you
there.
using it?
Yeah, it's still out there. Yeah, absolutely. I use it for demos all the time. I've got a version that works in the UCI, and actually that was the tool I was talking about earlier when I said it works with the Smart Buttons add-in. So right. if you have that solution installed, you'll actually see it appear in the Ribbon Workbench in the toolbox. But yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's about trying to get users excited by their data.
Yeah.
As soon as somebody can see something where it's cool, like you say, and you can see things bouncing around, and you can play with it and visualize it, and that was the purpose of it. Then it really starts to be something that you can think, well, actually, I will go to enter my data, and I will keep it up to date, because then that visualization is then going to be a lot more attractive. So yeah, it's something I'm quite passionate about in terms of visualization, and certainly. Things like the PCF is quite an interesting angle there, because I have actually rewritten it using PCF, but the challenge is that PCF doesn't support unbound controls at the moment. I know it's on the radar, so you have to basically bind it to a grid or individual field. So actually, PCF doesn't really give you very much over and above a normal web resource in that respect.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you are testing Ribbon Workbench with every new versions. You are working on the Sparkle, and you have projects and your teams you're working with, and you even create PCF control of your network visualization. I know you have a family. Do you have a life?
Yeah.
How is this possible? And then you're on YouTube every week.
Yes. A very high quality YouTube, much higher than I could ever hope to do myself. Yes.
I just don't. The math doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, well, in England actually we have a longer day, so that's
it's a whole British mean time thing.
Now we yeah. See, now we're trying to leave Europe, so that we're trying to to really keep that secret. That's what it is.
All right.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So his lips are sealed. Going back to the Sparkle framework, one of the biggest issues I've had with the tools that I've put out there for the community to use is I've done a very poor job with helping to get people to start using them and giving them the documentation and the reasoning and the support to do that. How does someone that wants to use your Sparkle framework, how do they get in to know A, what it is, B, how to use it, and C, if they even want to use it, or they think it's worthwhile using on their project? How do you get them to start using it and doing that?
Well, first and foremost, I would recommend that they hold for a minute, for a while, whilst I finish off the TypeScript version. Okay. But once that's out, I think sample code is the way in which anyone learns. Well, certainly any pro dev learns. It's like the old adage of "show me the code," right? You can read like 10 pages of documentation but still be none the wiser, but then you show one page of code and you're like, right, that's how it works. So I think it's about producing very small bite-size chunks of sample code that do a particular function and demonstrate that particular way of working. And if you look at any of the popular code frameworks, that's how they do it. They've got like the Dojo type, interactive samples and things like that. So yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Well, Jonas, anything else?
No, I think I'm getting so depressed now. I'm realizing I'm underproducing all the time. So I think we should finish this off now.
This is from the person that has the most XRM Toolbox downloads of anybody.
That's a great want, and then just live off the fruits of it.
Well, that's what software. That's what software is. Like, you kill yourself to create it, and then you get to enjoy it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and then I update the logo once a year and sort of release a new version and say, hey, it's new.
I think you're underselling yourself, Jonas. I think you do a very, very good job.
It's that Swedish humbleness.
But it's interesting because, like, with the Fetch XML, I mean, you're talking about doing it once and then leaving it. Fetch XML has been so. The longevity of that thing is. I mean, I don't know if you remember back. Was it back in the CRM 3 towards the end of that? They said they're going to deprecate it. And then like CRM 4 was like, nah, it's quite good, keep it. And then it was like, no, this is this is how everything works. It's not going away.
Some FetchXml guy in the background at Microsoft, he has the big master plan to sort of outmaneuver SQL.
Yes, exactly. Have you seen? I think it's Daniel Kai has got like a tool on his website that converts FetchXml to SQL and vice versa.
It does it one way, and the FetchXml builder does it the other way. So I can do to SQL, and I think his tool does from SQL to FetchXml. So someone asked me, oh, why can't we do it the other way? Then I just point to Daniel Kai's site and say, well, that's why.
Yeah, it's already there. Yeah, but you're right though. I mean, it's what basically it's syntax, isn't it? It's based about querying data, and querying data fundamentally doesn't change unless you're going to do something around some kind of big data type thing. But
But unlike Ribbon Workbench, FetchXml Builder is open source. So if we want a SQL to FetchXml, just submit a pull request. That's actually what happened with the to convert from query expression C# code. I was like, I got the request to do that, and I was like, I had no idea where to start even to get a text chunk that should represent C# code. But then some guy using Roslyn and whatever implemented it and submitted a pull request. So now it's in there as well. You can grab your C# code, paste it, and see what the FetchXml would look like.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, open source software really is such an inspiration for non-open source projects. I think I try and run every development project with an open source ethos because fundamentally it's about everyone being able to contribute. And one of the really fundamental parts of the way in which I run projects is around the sort of Walt Disney concepts, and he used to talk about the plussing, where everyone in the team can actually contribute to the end product. And so I actually saw there was some article recently about the life cycle of a user story, and it's the same kind of concept, is that you start with an idea and then you develop that idea further and further, and everyone adds in their own piece, and it may change quite fundamentally as you get feedback from people down the line. And I think that open source concept of having pull requests and having that sort of workflow where you can have multiple different branches and forks all being in parallel and then gradually merging towards a sort of more stable branch is such a mature way of looking at software building, and it really does put to shame that old school way of having a very sort of hierarchical notion of building software.
And sort of almost arrogance of let's not share this, and we don't think anyone can make it better out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And when anyone talks to me about open source software and says, "Oh, why would I want to share this?" Because I don't want people.
What's in it for me?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and if you're fundamentally asking that question, what's in it for me? Well, I've got one simple answer, which is you basically get free testing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. I think open sourcing is like, we all know the dynamics and the Power Platform, Power Addicts, everyone, the community around this ecosystem is awesome. I haven't seen anything like it when I've been working in other technologies. And I guess the open source is the techie, devy side of that community atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all of the community, getting involved and talking to each other like this XrmToolCast, is sort of a byproduct of that, I think. And so the software industry is just unlike any other industry, in terms of its openness and its community spirit. It's awesome to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Scott, we really appreciate your time today, and I have an idea now for your next time you update your advertising. There's going to be a really awesome audio podcast with your voice on it coming out here the next week or two that you can add a little link to in your advertisements of the Ribbon Toolbench. Just saying.
Cool.
Ribbon Workbench.
Yeah.
I got that right.
Workbench. Yeah. No,
Yes,
you know what? I'm not so fussy. You can spell it how you like as well, especially.
Oh, you can't say that.
Not if you don't notice. You can't do that at all. No, this is not gonna let you do that.
You can camel case, uppercase, lowercase. I don't care.
Oh shit. Yeah. Like a tape something work. Oh no. Isn't it called tape? The thing on top of the forms there.
You know what? It's a funny story,
Yes.
right? I get so many emails asking to buy workbenches.
I mean, physical workbenches.
Yeah, people want to buy. Like, can I have a quote for like 50 workbenches of 35 millimeters by 50 millimeters? Or in fact, a lot of people are actually trying to sell me workbenches. People from China and ribbons as well. I mean, amazing. So yeah, we are the premier supplier of ribbons to the clothing industry from China, and I get all these emails all the time. It's
I haven't had a single person offer to sell me a generator or want to buy a generator. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh.
So
Scott,
how do people get a hold of you?
Well, the best way is to go to my YouTube channel, which is Scott Durow, and subscribe to my channel so you get notifications, and all my other social profiles are linked on there as well.
Awesome. And Jonas, if people want to contact us, where do they go?
Well, they go to Twitter and they look for the handle XrmToolCast, or they send an email to cast@xrmtoolbox.com.
Yes, awesome.
And we still haven't received anyone since the last episode when you sort of encouraged everyone to send us something, because that mailbox is really empty.
You know, at some point, I'm just going to stop playing the pity card. I'm going to stop doing it, Jonas.
Okay, you did it last time, I did it now. Maybe we're done now.
I tell you what, right? So it's clear that the currency that we really all are influenced by is stickers.
Yes. Oh, there's Xrm Toolcast stickers. Send an email to cast@xrmtoolbox.com and I will ship you some Xrm Toolcast stickers.
There we go.
See, now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Yes.
Okay.
See, your mailbox is going to be full before you know it.
Awesome.
We're going to have to sell your third child in order to pay for the stickers you're sending out. Yes, I see that.
Yeah. I got too many anyway.
And are you going to be speaking anywhere, Scott? Anywhere people can see you in person?
Yes, I am. I'm actually speaking at the next D365 UG in Bristol. I'm also speaking at the Power Platform UG's World Tour in London. And I'm also, hopefully, I haven't submitted my my call for speaker submission yet, but perhaps maybe I'll get allowed to speak in Sweden at the next Dynamics Power event.
I know someone you need to bribe in some way to make that happen, but I think whoever that might be, could work something out.
Sounds promising.
Yeah. By the way, October 5th, Stockholm, Dynamics 365 Saturday. Be there.
That was nice.
Will there be stickers, though?
Oh, yes. Stickers everywhere.
Yes. And then Jonas and I will be together. Scott, I don't know if you're going to be in the CRMUG down in Florida this fall here, but we'll be there presenting multiple times as well. So that's another place to check us out as well. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and raise the bar, right?
Yeah, well, chaps, it's been awesome to talk to you. I feel like I could just do this, every evening. We could just chat and mumble around and talk about nonsense. But it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you guys, and thanks for having me.
You too, Scott. Thank you very much.
This has been the Xrm Toolcast with Jonas Rapp and Daryl Levon. If you have any questions for Jonas or I, or suggestions for future episodes, please send them to cast@xrmtoolbox.com or tweet to XrmToolCast.